take the shock value away and Family Matters is better, I can't agree. I think one is clearly, in my opinion, superior to the other. And that's why, like I said, currently I got Kendrick winning outside of these revelations or these potential nukes or bombshells that they might have in their camp. So I've subtracted the revelations and these quote unquote nukes from the tracks from both of them, right? Kendrick and the wife abuse allegations and Drake and his potential daughter, maybe not. Removing both of those bombshells from the tracks, I still have Meet the Grams as a significantly more sinister, sick, underhanded, and twisted record for a rapper to come out and rap at a 5-year-old Adonis and say, I could be a better mentor for you than your father could. He's failed you. Your whole family failed you. Saying to Sandy that, or Sandra, whatever her name is, whatever the fuck Drake's mom is, saying that your son failed you as a son, even though I know you might have failed him as a mom, and the father failed him as a father, and he's still as a son failing you as a son. Like, it's just like the whole family full of failures is what Kendrick is trying to allude to. And the issues that I guess he sees with Drake manifest in such a deeper way than anything else thus far. It's a very uncomfortable listen, and I haven't ever really felt that way when I've listened to diss records. You know what I'm saying? I haven't really felt that way when I was listening to what I was supposed to, I guess, digest as entertainment from people battling. You know what I'm saying? I never felt that uncomfortable before. Drake could play the angle that I don't really know what the fuck Kendrick is talking about. I could just downplay this track. I didn't even got to be that deep. But I think they're playing to completely different perspectives here, because the things that Drake values aren't necessarily the things that Kendrick values. So what they're going at isn't going to hit one another the same way. Drake would have needed, for it to be convincing for me, Drake would have needed to have had a history of advocating against violence against women, to use it as a point of contention, outside of just breaking up Kendrick Lamar's character, if he thought that to be true, for me to believe that, okay, this is something that bro actually cares about too. It would hit harder. You understand what I'm saying? It don't have to be a prerequisite. It doesn't. But it would hit harder. It would make it more poignant. It would make it more effective. I'm canceling their allegations out and just looking at the tracks for what they are, and me considering like what the more disrespectful, more effective record is. Drake not winning, but I will admit he given us some of his best rap flows. I agree with that. Rapping flows, which I ain't heard in a long time. Last track was good, though. I won't cap Bikini Up. I agree with that. This is actually bringing out, I think, a good side of Drake in terms of his rapping ability. You know what I'm saying? In terms of his focus and drive and things like that, is bringing out a level of Drake that I think a lot of people thought wouldn't be able to compete. It's the tones being completely different in those records that really get to me, because you're left with this impression that Drake came into this expecting it to go one way, and Kendrick is coming at it from a completely different angle, like a much more serious and sinister angle from Kendrick, as opposed to Drake taking a more, you kind of a bitch, homie. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like Drake is still, I feel like, not taking this as seriously as Kendrick is, partially because maybe he doesn't look at the things that Kendrick values as valuable, but Drake is still, you know what I'm saying? He's not in that bag yet. Kendrick arrived at a destination already, and he's there. And I'm waiting for Drake to arrive at that same destination, but I don't feel the same seriousness and tone that I do with Kendrick, those last couple records that I heard from him. I think everything that Kendrick is talking about, he actually genuinely has a problem with. And that's the thing that really is getting to me when it comes to Drake and Kendrick right now, because Kendrick is alluding to, and even the public is alluding to and confirming, that Drake wanted Kendrick on First Person Shooter or some other feature. But meanwhile, he's saying, I've been waiting on this diss and this battle for over a decade. He's saying that I've been waiting for this for over a decade, but you wanted him on a feature. That's weirdo shit. Why would you invite a nigga who you got a problem with, supposedly, to do a song with you? And so when I'm looking at this from Kendrick's perspective, you could say he's taking it too seriously, but I don't think that I think he's been looking at Drake like this. And the thing that makes it hit harder, and the thing that makes me respect Kendrick's perspective a bit more, is that number one, has been consistent. I haven't seen Kendrick not handle this in a way that required the seriousness that it seems that he's taken from this. He thinks that Drake is a bitch. He thinks he's a horrible person. He don't want to be around him. He don't want to do features with him. He don't want to do music with him. They're in completely different lanes right now in terms of how they view one another. He doesn't respect him whatsoever. Even when y'all see him parading around with Sexy Red, it's like, I'm not trying to get parasocial or get into the minds of their relationships or anything like that. I'm just saying the way he attaches himself to different people so easily adds to this point that Kendrick Lamar is talking about you're fake, or you don't have those genuine connections, or the people around you don't even really know about you, and they have something that they want to gain from you, or they seem to want to do you harm, and you don't even know it because you're just so infatuated with developing all these connections with people. Because a lot of people, that's the funny thing too, a lot of people thought that J. Cole's 7-minute drill song sounded forced and that he wasn't really in it. His heart wasn't really in it. But what do I say about Drake? If he's inviting Kendrick Lamar to do a song with him and J. Cole, despite telling other people that I have been waiting for this beef for 10 years, what do I say about Drake if y'all are saying that J. Cole didn't seem to really be in it and he seemed to be forcing it? Kendrick is the only one out of all of them that's been consistent with his emotion in regards to his position in rap, in regards to his feelings on Drake. I'm not counting him out, but Drake isn't on that level of psychological warfare, I don't think. He does not hate the nigga enough. That's what I'm saying. It's the same shit with J. Cole. There's no genuine, I don't feel like there's any genuine deep-seated hatred of Kendrick Lamar on Drake's behalf. So they'll never match energies. Drake genuinely seemed upset and angry when he replied to Pusha T and when he was replying to Kanye. He genuinely seemed upset. This nigga said, tired of sitting quiet and helping my enemies eat. When he said that, I heard the pain in the nigga voice. It don't feel the same. Especially after that last track. The Family Matters track really gets me into this frame of mind where I'm like, I don't feel it. I don't feel like I don't feel like your heart is really in this. Or at the very least, I don't feel like you have a problem with all the things that you are saying that are problematic for Kendrick as you may pretend to for the track. I feel like you might not even care about these things that you're talking about. On your own, you don't look at them as that big of a deal, and you got to make them work because it's against Kendrick. But on your own, do you have issues with these things? I don't know. For Kendrick, on his own, he has issues with all the things that Drake is. That's why it comes off and manifests in such a disgusting way on the tracks that he's released. But with Drake, it don't feel that way. And maybe that's just a difference in their emotion. Maybe that's a difference in their performance. Kendrick's always been a very good performer. You know what I'm saying? I don't doubt that even if Drake was passionate about something, we might not get the full effect of it because he doesn't perform those tracks with the level of intensity that I think they require or demand, which to me would have made that last track that he dropped a lot more significantly hard hitting. Why is it a knock against Drake that Kendrick hates him more? It's not a knock against Drake that Kendrick hates him more. It's a knock against Drake that it doesn't appear as if he comes with this or at this with the same level of passion that Kendrick is. So it makes Kendrick's words hit harder when I'm listening to Drake melodically try to ruin Kendrick with a woman beater freestyle almost. And these are things that Drake historically has never cared about and also doesn't make it a point to passionately deliver on his own records. You don't even hate this man enough to give him a full track? This is Kendrick Lamar, a nigga that you say you've been waiting on this beef with for 10 years and you don't even give him a full cut? You talking about your dick on a song. And I get that it's funny and y'all like the song. I don't even dislike the song. I'm just talking about as a diss, what I feel is being given here and why I'm giving Kendrick the edge right now. I wanted to talk about the hypocrisies of both of the tracks, right? So the first thing that people would have brought up would have been Kendrick, you advocated for R. Kelly's music to remain on Spotify, despite having this stance against people going against underage, people going against or people going after children, wanting to keep the kids safe, wanting to keep young women safe, wanting to do all of these things. And to that point, I would say from my remembrance of that whole situation, and I believe that happened somewhere around the time XXXTentacion was making headwaves, I don't recall Kendrick advocating for R. Kelly. I recall Kendrick speaking in reference to the white artists that still had their music on Spotify at the time, and that if you're going to have this stance, you should have it equally across the board. I think that was a lot of people outside of just Kendrick Lamar's point of contention with Spotify it wasn't just because they wanted R. Kelly's music to stay up or no shit like that. I don't think anybody was unironically defending or trying to come for the decision to potentially get the world away from R. Kelly, but it was very clearly a double standard and something that didn't seem to be consistently applied across the board musically. That said, also considering who Spotify is as like a corporation and how often they take advantage of artists, I don't really think they're the ones that should be morally grandstanding, or like their moral consistency is very out of whack. You know, you can look at their track record and be like, yeah, y'all niggas probably should shut the fuck up. But I don't think that was an endorsement of R. Kelly. But I will say that the Kodak Black inclusion is probably the biggest point of contention that someone could reference. Because although I agree that Kendrick probably wasn't using it to co-sign Kendrick or co-sign Kodak, and he was probably using it as an example or a way to try to recontextualize Kodak to fit the theme and the narrative of the album, you still ultimately ended up most likely paying Kodak for his feature, for his inclusion, supporting someone who had done something so heinous, and then to come out months later talking about how bad touching kids and preying on children or just sexual assault in general is. You know what I'm saying? You referenced that when it came to Baca, I'm assuming, with his alleged, or I don't even know if it's confirmed conviction. I think that that's a big hypocrisy. And I think if Drake was more calculated and he seemed to be an artist that stood for something, he could stand on that hypocrisy as it comes to Kendrick. But the issue that I take with Drake is that I don't think he stands for anything. My issue with Drake comes from this thought that he uses things as like an advantage for diss records. So when I look at some of the information that we got on the called Family Matters, I hear what you're saying. And while I need confirmation of that, of Kendrick potentially abusing his wife, weren't you clowning Megan Thee Stallion for being shot? Weren't you on Tory Lanez's side for that whole debacle? Weren't you like a part of the harassment campaign and the additional shit? Like, I don't think that, and especially with you keeping somebody like Baca in your circle, not even as a feature for an album, but literally in your circle, like somebody that you co-sign, I don't think you care about it to a point where you would bomb drop. I think that with Kendrick, it's a huge point of contention and it's hypocrisy. Don't get me wrong, but I think that there is a stance against it. I feel like he at least would see something like that and not openly welcome it as a part of his regime. He would denounce it. I mean, it's very clear that Kendrick isn't endorsing the behavior. I don't see him and Kodak hanging out, despite how nasty the inclusion of that album really is. If anything, Kendrick exploited Kodak Black, despite it being really shoddy on his own album. And again, I still don't think that that's a great argument, saying that Kendrick is all this intentional artist to a point where, oh, well, he couldn't make a mistake and it's all for the point of the album. I still think that's nasty work, but I give him a little bit of a benefit of the doubt in that regard. With Drake, you actually know and hang with these people. You real life be fucking with these niggas, I feel like. Like, yeah, you think the people care about it, but do you care about it? Would this be in the song, or would this be even in the titling of anything if it was just up to you and it wasn't a spectacle for the fan base and for the people that were listening? Would you even include it? Because I don't think you even care about it. But I do realize and recognize that for the point of a diss and for the point of a battle and for the point of the perception of Kendrick Lamar, it breaks this whole God complex. This is such a perfect guy. We should look up to this person. This is who I want to model my life after ass. You know what I'm saying? It breaks up that facade, or it breaks up that persona. It's not something that I think that he shouldn't use, but it's just something I think he genuinely doesn't care about. What beyond this point a Drake response looks like, I don't know how he's gonna move forward, but it's hard to say. What else? I feel like what else is there to say after this? It's not even about the track being bad. I think the flows on the track were good. I thought Drake's rapping was good. I thought the intro of the track was great. I haven't heard Drake rap like that in God knows how long, but I didn't get anything that was cutting. That's all I'm saying. A track by itself, on its own, I could probably listen to that. If I'm judging it off of a diss, I didn't really get anything out of it. But a song by itself, it's not a bad Drake song. I never said it was bad. I'm listening for one thing is all I'm saying. This would be a historic track for Kendrick if this ended up being true. But until he can prove anything, like that last part about, you know, you having a daughter in the world, it's surprising, it's shocking, it's crazy to think about, but it don't mean nothing. At least not yet. That shit Kendrick pulled last night was That got me looking at bro different. That was a completely psychological, disrespectful cut. Neighbor, look who on top? But who on top, chat? But who on top? Who on top? Exactly. Shit crazy. Who the big boy on the top? That's what I'm saying. Top dog. No Kendi.